China snubs Canada. This is the Great White North Report. So Canada is not on a list of approved travel spots in mainland China, which will set back tourism post its COVID recovery. Before the pandemic, something like 700,000 mainland Chinese tourists visited Canada. And that number has obviously decreased dramatically over the past 3 years, thanks to the CCP and their virus and their own draconian laws concerning the CCP virus. And things were set to bounce back this year because they've lifted their restrictions as if they never happened. And now they snub Canada on its list of approved travel spots. So the fact that the government has to approve travel spots is kind of interesting. Like Canada, we put travel advisories against going to certain places. Like, really, who wants to go to North Korea? Who wants to go to the South Sudan, Niger, and other countries like that? So basically, it's a snub. They say it's a apparent snub. It is a snub. There's no other way you can look at it. As international travel destinations for tour groups. Most mainland Chinese come here in Canada as part of tour groups, sanctioned tour groups, and these tour groups take them to hotels that are run by Chinese. They eat at restaurants mostly run by Chinese, and they get toured around in Chinese-speaking buses, like with tour guides. I see them all the time in places like Niagara Falls. I saw some at the Cavendish PEI, at the Anna Green Gables house. I've seen them at Blue Mountain, Collingwood. Everywhere you see these tour groups. And they're pretty distinctive. They all pretty much dress the same, and they're very loud and noisy. But they bring in dollars. They bring in their money. What can you? So I can't say too much, and they want to see the world. Oh, whatever. I don't like tour groups myself. I've been on a few, and it's not for me. So this is going to leave our travel industry at a competitive disadvantage as it continues its post-pandemic recovery. I think we got to stop relying on Chinese tourism and start looking elsewhere. Promote it from other countries a little more heavily than the Chinese market. We need to wean ourselves away from the Chinese market, pure and simple. So their rationale for excluding Canada, according to the Public Affairs Office and China's embassy in Ottawa, wrote, lately the Canadian side has repeatedly hyped up the so-called Chinese interference, and rampant and discriminatory anti-Asian acts and words are rising significantly in Canada. No, they're not. The only discriminatory acts are against the CCP themselves. That's the problem. The CCP wants the world to think that they represent all Chinese people. Any bad remarks against the CCP also reflects against all Chinese people. It doesn't. Chinese tourists could come here and nothing would happen to them, other than the ordinary stuff that happens year in, year out. But for the most part, nothing happens, unless they bring it upon themselves. So the government attaches great importance to protecting the safety and legitimate rights of overseas Chinese citizens and wishes they can travel in a safe and friendly environment. Bullshit. I love how they spin things. Canadians have more chances of getting in trouble in China than a Chinese citizen has getting over here. So they figure that Chinese tourism spent about $255 billion in 2019, 20% of all international tourist spending. That number won't be as high because right now China is going through a tough economic hardships right now, more than people think. If you look at their economic statistics, their numbers, and then take those with a grain of salt and probably divide it by a third, because economically the Chinese lie about their numbers constantly, and their economy is in worse shape than you think. They are in so much debt. So Destination Canada, the Crown Corporation, set up to promote tourism. 2019, China was Canada's largest source of tourist arrivals from the Asia-Pacific region and Canada's second largest long-haul market after the UK. China also used to be Canada's largest market in terms of how much its tourists spend, because it's the richest Chinese coming to Canada. So this fight's not the first time. Harper kept Canada off the list back in 2005 when the Liberals thought they had it, but then Harper came in and said he wasn't going to vow human rights for the almighty dollar. So it took years for approval for Chinese tour groups. This is the thing. The government controls where its citizens can freely go. CCP controls what its citizens can do. They have a social credit system. So if you visit Canada right now, you will get a black mark on your social credit score. If you go visit somewhere they approve of, you get a better score. It's a way they weaponize tourism, which is kind of sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And Emerson, who served both the Liberals and the Conservatives, continue to push China, even threatened to take Canada's case to the World Trade Organization, arguing Canada had been put in an economic disadvantage for purely political reasons. And it's the same thing that's happening now. Harper finally secured ADS during a visit to Beijing in 2009. Yep, there's Shanghai. I've been there. I've been to the Pearl Tower. These other two buildings weren't there yet. I was there in 2000, and you can see all the construction that was going on at the time. Looks like something out of Lord of the Rings. Mordor. So it's because of strained relations, mainly because of the Chinese doing. And China has weaponized so many other things, like they blocked Canadian beef for 17 months, they lifted a 3-year-old ban on Canadian canola, all because of what happened to Ming the Merciless Guangzhou. And it's still going on with the foreign interference probe, because Global Affairs Canada said it found evidence early this year of disinformation campaign against Conservative MP Michael Chong. Beijing was likely behind their operation, which spread lies about Chong on the popular Chinese social media platform WeChat. They interfere with our politics more than we think. They have secret police stations set up in Canada. What more do we need? They don't want to send their tourists here. We got to find another source. We should also restrict travel by Canadians to China. No big deal. China does have a lot to see, but at the same time, it's an incredibly dirty country. But any Canadians, let me know what you guys think about the China snub. And can Canadian tourism bounce back if Chinese tourists don't come to Canada? Let me know in the comment section. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.